Not all arguments are created equal. Welcome to Critical Thinking Scan, where we look at how you can think about any faith-challenging message and arrive at a biblical, logical conclusion yourself. I'm Patricia Engler, and today I'll be talking about what a logical argument is to help you spot illogical arguments when you see them. Now, when we talk about arguments in everyday life, we're often referring to a disagreement between at least two people. But in logic, an argument is something else. It's a set of statements called premises, which are meant to work together to support another statement, which is called the conclusion. For example, the premise, DNA contains information, and the premise, information comes only from intelligent sources, together support the conclusion that DNA originated from an intelligent source. That's an argument for DNA originally being designed by our Creator God. And like I learned in my own critical thinking class at university, there are two basic types of arguments. Deductive arguments, which claim that a conclusion is certainly true, and inductive arguments, which claim that a conclusion is probably true. For instance, a deductive argument might be, all fossils are dead things. This fish is a fossil, therefore this fish is certainly a dead thing. But an inductive argument might be, most fossils were buried in Noah's flood. This fish is a fossil, therefore this fish was probably buried during Noah's flood. So inductive arguments imply a probable conclusion, while deductive arguments try to prove a certain conclusion. Now, with deductive arguments, we say the argument is valid if the conclusion logically follows from the premises, whether or not those premises are actually true. For instance, the argument, all fish are reptiles, this fossil is a fish, therefore this fossil is a reptile, is logically valid, even though the first premise, that fish are reptiles, is false. Because if both premises were true, the conclusion must be true as well. Now, if an argument is valid and all of its premises are true, we say the argument is sound. However, if a valid deductive argument has even one false premise, we say the argument is unsound. With inductive arguments, it's a little different. Instead of being valid or valid, inductive arguments are called strong or weak depending on how probable the conclusion is, assuming the premises are true. For instance, a strong inductive argument for trying a new medicine might state, 99% of patients say that vitamin X improved their symptoms, so if you have symptoms, you'll likely benefit from vitamin X too. While a weak inductive argument might say, 49% of patients benefited from vitamin X, so if you have symptoms, you'll likely benefit from it too. That conclusion isn't really probable given the less than 50% success rate. But if an inductive argument is strong and its premises are true, we say the argument is cogent. If at least one premise is false, we call the argument uncogent. Now, we've just covered a lot of terms, so let's recap. Deductive arguments state that a claim is certainly true, and they're valid if the conclusion logically follows from the premises, and they're sound if the logic is valid and the premises are true. Inductive arguments state that a claim is probably true. They can be strong or weak depending on the degree of probability, and even a strong argument is only cogent if all the premises are true. That might sound like a lot to keep straight, but the types of arguments are really helpful to know because being able to recognize a logical argument will also help you recognize fallacies, which are faulty forms of logic that result when a conclusion doesn't necessarily follow from the premises. Like, if an animal is a bird, then it has wings. Bats have wings, therefore bats are birds. That's a fallacy called affirming the consequent. And it's invalid because the conclusion that bats are birds wouldn't necessarily follow from the two premises provided without a third false premise that says only birds have wings. So that's an example of a formal fallacy, which is a flaw in the structure of a deductive argument. Other types of faulty reasoning, like suggesting that a message is true because a good-looking person said so, are called informal fallacies. So there's a crash course on recognizing sound logical arguments. For more on how to think critically about any faith-challenging message, you can access my other CT scan videos packed with tactics, tips, and tools that helped me as a Christian student at secular university. Thank you for watching. Hey, it's Patricia. just wanting to let you know that if you like these videos, are on board to share the message of biblical authority, and want to give, you're welcome to help Answers in Genesis produce more content like this and equip more people to defend their faith by making a one-time donation or becoming a monthly supporter by clicking the link below. Thanks so much.